Hello, welcome to Two World Beliefs channel. We're so glad you're here. If you enjoy inspiring stories, Bible stories brought to life, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button if you find this video helpful and subscribe to join our growing community. Tap the bell icon too so you never miss an upload. Let's dive in. A journey of dreams, betrayal, and redemption ***. Joseph the Dreamer. In the ancient land of Canaan, nestled among rolling hills and fertile plains, there lived a young man named Joseph. He was one of 12 sons of Jacob, also known as Israel. Joseph's family was large and varied, each son having his own unique traits and dreams. But Joseph stood out not just for his handsome face or his strong spirit, but because he was Jacob's favorite. Jacob loved all his children, but Joseph held a place of special favor. He was born in Jacob's old age to his beloved wife, Rachel, a woman Jacob had served 14 long years to marry. Her beauty, strength, and love for Jacob made her unforgettable, and so Joseph became a living memory of Rachel. Because of this, Jacob felt an almost sacred bond with his son, a connection that none of the others could quite share. To symbolize his affection, Jacob gave Joseph a robe, a gift fit for royalty, woven with vibrant threads and rich colors. This was no ordinary robe. It shimmered with hues of deep blues, radiant purples, and bold reds, each color symbolizing Jacob's pride, hope, and blessing for his son. As Joseph walked through the fields, the robe would catch the light, glowing in the sun, a radiant testament to his father's love. But to Joseph's brothers, this robe was a constant reminder of their father's unequal affection, a wound that festered in their hearts. Every glance at the robe was a reminder that, in their father's eyes, they would never be like Joseph. Each brother harbored his own secret resentment, each feeling the sting of being overlooked, of living in Joseph's shadow. Then there were the dreams. Joseph was a dreamer in every sense of the word. His nights were filled with visions, mysterious and vivid, as if messages from the heavens were sent just for him. Unlike others, Joseph wasn't one to hide these dreams. He shared them eagerly, seeing them as revelations to be understood, as signs of things yet to come. One morning, his voice filled with excitement, Joseph gathered his brothers around and began, "I had the most amazing dream last night." His eyes sparkled as he spoke, as though reliving the wonder of the dream itself. "In my dream we were all in the field, binding sheaves of grain. Suddenly my sheaf stood tall, while all your sheaves circled around it and bowed down to mine." A silence fell over his brothers, their faces tightening with barely concealed anger. In that moment, Joseph's enthusiasm felt like mockery, as though he were taunting them with visions of his own superiority. One of his brothers scoffed, "Do you really think you'll rule over us, Joseph?" Another muttered, "The dreamer has spoken again." Though they laughed, a bitter jealousy had already started to take root. Days passed, but Joseph's dreams continued. He couldn't resist sharing the next one. "I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me." This time, even Jacob, who listened with intrigue and affection, was taken aback. "Shall I, your mother, and your brothers truly bow down before you?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Yet, something made Jacob keep these dreams close to his heart, pondering if they held a truth he could not yet grasp. Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. Also he made him a tunic of many colors, betrayed by his brothers. One clear morning, Jacob called for Joseph, who came promptly, his robe trailing gracefully behind him. "Your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem," Jacob said, looking intently at his beloved son. "Go check on them and bring back word of their welfare." Joseph nodded obediently, eager to fulfill his father's wishes. As he approached the area where his brothers were gathered, they spotted him from a distance. The gleam of his robe was unmistakable, even from afar. One of them, with a voice hardened by resentment, spat, "Here comes that dreamer." The others turned to look, their faces darkening as memories of his dreams resurfaced. Then came a whispered suggestion, dark and vengeful. "Let's rid ourselves of him," one said. "We'll see what becomes of his dreams once he's gone." It was as if their jealousy had finally erupted, turning into something sharper, something dangerous. Reuben, the eldest, felt a pang of guilt. Though he too harbored jealousy, he couldn't bear the thought of blood on his hands. "Let's not kill him," he advised cautiously, his tone placating. "We can throw him into this empty pit." In his heart, Reuben hoped to return later and rescue Joseph, sparing him from harm. When Joseph arrived, his usual smile faded as he noticed the hardened expressions of his brothers. Before he could ask what was wrong, they seized him, tearing off his beautiful robe. Helpless, he was dragged toward a deep, dry pit and thrown down into its darkness. The echo of his cries filled the hollow space, but his brothers turned away, ignoring his pleas. As they sat down to eat, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders appeared on the horizon. Judah, another brother, saw an opportunity. "What good is it if we leave him to die? Let's sell him. That way, his blood isn't on our hands and we gain something from it." The others agreed, and for 20 pieces of silver, they sold their brother to the traders, watching as Joseph, bound and broken, was led away toward an unknown fate. Genesis 37:24-28. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty, there was no water in it. So they pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Joseph in Egypt. When Joseph arrived in Egypt, he was sold to Potiphar, a captain of Pharaoh's guard. Though he was now a slave in a foreign land, Joseph clung to his faith. His days were filled with hard labor, yet he worked diligently, refusing to let despair take hold. Potiphar soon noticed Joseph's exceptional abilities and integrity, placing him in charge of his entire household. Under Joseph's watchful eye, everything prospered. But Joseph's challenges were far from over. Potiphar's wife, a woman drawn to his handsome looks and strength, began to desire him. Day after day she attempted to seduce him, yet Joseph remained steadfast. "How could I commit such a wicked act and sin against God?" he replied, keeping his integrity intact. Then one day as Joseph went about his duties, she caught him by his cloak, demanding his affection. Joseph pulled himself free, leaving his cloak in her grasp as he fled from the house. Enraged and humiliated, she falsely accused him of assault, and Potiphar, upon hearing her story, was filled with anger. Without a fair hearing, Joseph was thrown into prison, a place of darkness and despair. Genesis 39:20-21. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Dreams in the darkness. Despite the bleakness of prison, Joseph's faith and integrity shone. Soon, the prison warden took notice of his character, entrusting him with responsibilities over the other prisoners. Joseph managed the prison with diligence, refusing to let bitterness consume him. One day, two new prisoners arrived, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, both troubled by disturbing dreams. Seeing their troubled faces, Joseph asked, "Why are you so downcast?" When they explained, Joseph offered to interpret their dreams, trusting God to provide the answers. The cupbearer began, "In my dream, a vine with 3 branches blossomed and ripened with grapes. I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed it in his hand." Joseph smiled, sensing the meaning. "The 3 branches mean 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position." Encouraged, the baker shared his dream, in which birds ate bread from the top of 3 baskets on his head. Joseph's face grew somber as he explained, "The 3 baskets mean 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will have you executed, and birds will feed on your flesh." 3 days later, both dreams came true. The cupbearer was restored, but the baker met his tragic end. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph asked, "Remember me when you are with Pharaoh. I have done nothing to deserve this prison." But the cupbearer forgot him, and Joseph's hopes were dashed as months turned into years. Genesis 40:23. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. The rise to power. After 2 long years, Pharaoh was haunted by troubling dreams. 7 healthy cows devoured by 7 scrawny cows, followed by 7 full ears of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. Pharaoh's advisors failed to interpret the dreams, leaving him deeply troubled. At that moment, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. "There's a young Hebrew in prison who interpreted my dream and that of the chief baker," he told Pharaoh. "Perhaps he can help." Joseph was quickly summoned, and after being shaved and dressed, he was brought before Pharaoh. "I hear you can interpret dreams," Pharaoh said. "It is not I, but God who will give Pharaoh a favorable answer," Joseph replied humbly. He then explained that the dreams were warnings of 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. "Let Pharaoh appoint a wise man to oversee the land and store up food during the years of plenty," Joseph advised. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him as the second most powerful man in Egypt, giving him authority over the entire land. Joseph, once a slave and prisoner, was now a ruler, his integrity and faith bringing him to a place of influence and trust.